Don't be the guy or gal that shows up to a trip without their gear, without their weapon, and everything else that you would need to have a successful trip. Not having the right gear can jack up the whole thing and even cause you to cancel your trip.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have? What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend? Is there anything I could do?
Welcome back to Dangerous Questions, an Ironclad original. Hunting season is upon us, and if you're anything like me, you're either getting your gear prepped, dusting it off, or thinking about what new gear to buy. Now, gear has always been important to me, and I've found a lot of crossover with not only going to hunt bad guys overseas, but getting out in the woods. They are very, very similar in nature, and over and over and over again, I've found things that I absolutely need and that I thought were critical. This was not easy to do by any means, but I've narrowed it down to 6 things that I would not leave your house or go on any hunting trip without. So I just want to narrow this list down and give you guys an idea if you're looking for a starting point to be able to have the ability to be prepared. The one thing I'll say before I get into this list is that having a process, having a pre-trip checklist before you go out in the woods, before you go out offshore, to make sure you're looking at it the night before or a couple of days before and walking through every single detail to make sure you're squared away. Don't be the guy or gal that shows up to a trip without their gear, without their weapon, and everything else that you would need to have a successful trip. Not having the right gear can jack up the whole thing and even cause you to cancel your trip. Number 1 piece of equipment that I would recommend for having on a hunting trip is a good, solid, reliable, dialed-in weapons platform. Now, it seems obvious for me to say that, but I want to at least give you the detail of what that means to me. Don't show up to a trip without your gear and your gun being sighted in, locked onto that thing, double-checked on all your torques, making sure your sling and everything about that weapons platform, that you're intimate with it. You spend time with that thing before you decide to go on the trip. Don't skip that step. You are relying on that not only to harvest and go out and take an accurate shot in a humane way, but you also could be relying on it to handle other wildlife that could potentially become a threat. So you don't want to go out there without that thing sighted in. Know your gun, know your dope, know your windages and all of your elevations so that when you get on target, no matter what the distance is, you're squared away. And if you don't feel that way, my recommendation is you get the training to do it. Number 2, good communications. Having something on you that you can communicate. We can forget a lot of things. We can find ourselves in a lot of tough situations. But if we have the ability to communicate with somebody, then why not do it? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's ridiculous not to. It's like ridiculous not to have a tourniquet, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we've got to have good, solid communications. InReach, Garmin InReach, you have to have a level of subscription, but it's a really, really simple tool that allows you to message. It allows you to get notifications out there. I know that I've had trips offshore and in the woods that go way longer than expected. Instead of everybody else at home freaking out and wondering where you are, getting ready to deploy, the Department of Environmental Management or police or Coast Guard, you have a way to let them know, hey, my trip's been extended, and or so you get into a situation where you actually need help. Okay, number 3, navigation. An ability to figure out where you're at, where you're going, and how to get out of that situation is critical. I've never been in an environment overseas or at home where I didn't think having navigation was a good idea. Now, can you go into small places that you know like the back of your hand? Sure. Is it still helpful to mark different routes and stuff? Yes. But if you're going anywhere that you do not know, You cannot go into those environments without having some type of global positioning system or Garmin or something that's going to help you know where you're at. Again, the night before, make sure it's charged up, make sure it's got extra batteries, and you're good to go. All right, guys, this episode of Dangerous Questions is brought to you by MTNTOUGH, the fitness app. These guys have been crushing, and honestly, I'm stoked to have their support. They've been doing some amazing things, and they are doing a deal right now, especially during the holidays, and everybody has their own way of looking at things. But ultimately, we need to stay disciplined, and this is a great way to do it. The MTNTOUGH app is your battlefield for building mental toughness and physical strength. This isn't just a workout program, it's a mission to forge you into a high-performing athlete, prepared for whatever comes next. MTNTOUGH is so confident in this program that they're offering you a full year on the app for just $120 by using code CYBER50 at MTNTOUGH.com. That breaks down to just 33 cents a day. Okay, number 4 is a solid layering system. So that means something to me, and if it doesn't mean something to you, it should. Because every time I went into an environment or back out or went in and camped or sat in a tree stand or in a blind, whatever the case may be, you're moving. So you heat up, you sweat, you start to perspirate through that material. If you don't have a way to quickly layer up and down, that can be to your detriment. You know, you can have a couple of layers where you feel good moving, you get soaked because you sweat, and now you stop and you end up freezing to death. Instead, having a layering system where you can take it off, you know you're gonna move, you pre-plan that, I unzipper everything, open it way up, take my gloves off, take my hat off, and you're moving. I perspirate as much as I can out and not into my material, and then when I slow down, I start zippering it back up, throwing layers on, getting my pack out, you know, all those things. Again, there's a lot of things that go into going on a trip, but these are the most critical. Gloves. Gloves and footwear, I'm kind of putting them in the same category because they are an ancillary, but you will be amazed at what you can't do once you lose your dexterity. I mean, I'm talking about even the communications I was just talking about. If you need to type something in and your hands are completely numb and you can't feel anything, you've got to have good gloves, good footwear. I can kind of deal with my feet being wet and cold and kind of feeling like clubs and I'm walking around with nubs on my feet, but these are really, you know, they're a game changer because as soon as you lose your dexterity, a lot of things can go bad. Manipulating your safety, manipulating communication, and any other dexterous movement. I think heated gloves are worth looking into. Know your body, know your capabilities, and know what you're going to be able to expect out there. And even with footwear, have an extra pair of socks. You know, if your feet get wet, cold, it's good to switch out. Even an extra pair of gloves or heated gloves are very, very useful. I wouldn't leave without them. I didn't go on an op without them. Number 5, having good medical gear with you. Having something. I always say don't leave home without a tourniquet. Don't leave home without some type of a blowout kit that you can utilize to handle wounds. If you start bleeding out, you get caught up on something that you didn't expect, you've got to be able to handle that major bleed. If you're on your own or you're with a buddy, you got to be able to attack that bleed right away until you can have time to say, hey, listen, I'm bleeding out, I'm doing what I can, right? Win the fight, self-aid, buddy aid. You've got to have the ability to be able to self-rescue and take care of yourself out there when you're going out into the wilderness, okay? Number 6, last and but not least, a reliable fixed blade, something that you can have with you that's sharp and ready to go. A fixed blade can do so many things: pry, cut, tear. You can make tools out of it. You know, warriors have been using blades for thousands of years, especially being a huntsman. You don't want to be out in the woods going after game or doing anything else like that out in the wilderness where you could utilize this tool to its advantage. I always recommend guys get the double-edged Dynamis blade or the single edge. It's a really good fieldcraft blade. It's solid, it's trustworthy. You can put that thing through the ringer and it's razor sharp to be able to either skin your game and or use it for field use. It's one of those things where you don't want to leave home without. It wasn't easy to put all these things into 6, but those are my top 6 things that are non-negotiable. There's a lot of other gear out there when you talk about very specific uses. Know your environment. What footwear are you taking into what environment? Do you need to climb up a hill or is it flat ground? Is you going to get wet or not? These are all variables that you need to put into your gear. Think about this stuff. Visualize yourself walking to the target or your tree stand or whatever it is, and then back out. If you don't have any experience doing this, it's worth your time to understand this. It's also worth your time to get the right gear. Don't buy cheap stuff. This stuff is going to be something that could save your life. So get out there, have fun. I know I'm pumped for hunting season, and really just getting out there with the kids and the family is something that brings a lot of life and fruit to a family, but you want to do it with confidence, and this is going to help you get there. So that's my top 6 things. We broke this down. Again, this is a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown of what people are asking us to do, and I wanted to give that information to you guys. So if there's anything else you want us to break down or really go in depth about, let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching Dangerous Questions, guys. God bless you. Until the next one, peace.
We don't just do the filmmaking. We do everything. We've taken a case study of over 30 projects that we've done over the past 15 years, and we put together what we believe is the most effective and efficient content funnel for brands. They need content on a daily basis. They need to be talking to authentic end users. We want your team to bring its most challenging problems and allow us and our team to apply our proven methods to your brand to take it to another level.